rounds.
All right, let's keep it in the UK for this next topic. Artur Beterbiev, the 3-belt 175-pound champion. He is over in London to take on Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde, people in the U.S. probably remember Anthony Yarde as an opponent of Sergey Kovalev back in 2019. Yarde had some success in the first half of that fight, eventually got knocked out. He has one loss, a split decision to Lyden Johnson. Since then, he did avenge that loss with a knockout win over Johnson. That fight's going to be on ESPN Plus, by the way. All due respect to our friends over at Top Rank, to Evan Korn, the great publicist over at Top Rank, to all the good people over at Queensberry who are billing this as a puncher versus puncher fight. This is not a puncher versus puncher fight, because in one corner, you've got one of the most devastating punchers, at least in light heavyweight history, and the only active champion in Beterbiev, who has all of his wins coming by way of knockout. In the other corner, you've got a guy with some knockouts, but they've come against
a lot of knockouts.
Yeah, but they've come against nobodies at this point. They've come against nobodies. So, there's this billing for this fight that we're going to see two big punchers go at it in the middle of the ring. No chance that happens. No chance. Artur Beterbiev is going to come forward like Artur Beterbiev does, and maybe in the first few moments, Yarde throws some punches back, but once he tastes that power, he ain't banging with Beterbiev. He's going to try to box with Beterbiev, and we've seen that hasn't worked at this point either. So I like Beterbiev massively in this fight. I think this is a mismatch. Yarde, he's the mandatory, so it's his position to be in, but I think this is a pretty significant mismatch.
It won't be a mismatch for about 7 rounds. I see Anthony Yarde doing well. I see him winning rounds. I see him actually outboxing Beterbiev in like 3 or 4 rounds, because Beterbiev is somewhat of a slow starter because he's not a volume puncher. He wants to hit something solid. He's kind of like a Joe Smith. He's kind of like a Joe Smith Jr., that type power, only with even more power and more technique and more conviction.
You think Anthony Yarde has more power than Joe Smith?
No way. I didn't say that. I said Beterbiev is similar to a Joe Smith Jr. as far as his heavy hands.
Oh, okay.
No. Yarde has he has good pop. He has hard punches, but you can't compare the two, and you can't compare the two's resumes either. So who are you knocking out? First of all, when you look at a knockout ratio, it's like, okay, who did you knock out? And then you look at the people that he knocked out and say, okay, how many times have they been knocked out? That's how you actually start realizing how hard a puncher is. When you look into the numbers, you look at Beterbiev's names and numbers and resumes. He knocked out guys that never been knocked out. That's what you respect. When it comes to Yarde, he has actually fought and knocked out fighters that are either already been stopped or already had multiple losses, and they're not on the championship level. You look at Anthony Yarde's resume and you realize why he has a high knockout percentage, and doesn't take away from the fact that he is a hard puncher. But he's not a power puncher, and he's not going to be a top-rated power puncher if you rank the top 25 or 30 or even 40 punches, because the resume doesn't match the knockout ratio on Yarde's resume.
After getting knocked out by Kovalev, Yarde fought a guy named Diego Ramirez, who was 4-48-3.
There you go.
In his next fight, he fought someone named Dex Spellman,
there you go,
who was 16-4. Then he fought Lyndon Arthur, who he lost to by split decision. 2 fights later, he knocked out Arthur. So his last, I'm looking it up right now, 6-8, his last 9 fights, I think it is, or 10 maybe. His last 10 wins have come by knockout, but none of them have come against someone at a high level. Right. But I'm just trying to make the point that this is not puncher versus puncher. No. Like, Beterbiev is knocking out Alexander Vostok. He is knocking out Joe Smith. He's knocking out Marcus Brown. And you're right. The Smith fight was something of an aberration, because you don't see Beterbiev pick up a lot of early round knockouts. He usually wears guys down with his pressure and with his heavy hands, just like he did with Vostok, who was undefeated and a world champion at that time. Marcus Brown, pretty high-level guy at that time, just wears them down over the course of the fight. I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a first or second round knockout unless Yarde practices what he preaches. Because Yarde's talking about banging in this fight. Like, he's talking about, cracking with Beterbiev. That would be
suicide.
A mistake. That would be boxing suicide.
That would be the end of his career if he decides to do this. Because Yarde, he has good talent. He has good hand speed. He has defense. He's athletic. He is strong. He does have pop. He's not a crushing puncher, but he has pop. And he has a good fight IQ, all right? And he has a long, strong jab. It's pretty educated. He's going to do well against Beterbiev, just like he was doing well against Kovalev when he had his moments and he was able to,
Kovalev was at the back end of his career. And even though Beterbiev is older,
he's still a crusher, still a champion. And
yeah, but he had been knocked out before by Eleuter Alvarez. Like, Kovalev was not the crusher.
He still won.
He did win, but that's kind of the problem. Like, that's sort of my problem with Anthony Yarde.
So what are you trying to say? He wasn't what he used to, but he still won.
Yes, he still won, and that is the only example we have of Anthony Yarde fighting at the highest
Yarde
levels
is not
going to
bang with Beterbiev. So get that out of the equation.
Look, this is how it's being built.
He's gonna come out.
Puncher.
Look, what I am going to tell you is Yarde wins that first round.
Okay.
Yarde wins that first round. Second one might be close. Third one he might be close. I see him winning 2 out of the first 5 rounds. And then after that, it's gonna start getting violent. And once he starts getting hit in the shoulders and he can't move as much anymore, he's getting cornered against the ropes. He's gonna be back against the ropes more than he wants to, and he can't keep the fight in the middle of the ring. That's when Beterbiev and his power is gonna